The world held its breath when the announcement broke. An alien starship had entered Earth's orbit. Governments scrambled, scientists speculated, and doomsayers proclaimed the end of the world. Among this chaos, Ethan Carter, a linguistics professor at a prestigious university, stared at the breaking news on his laptop with an odd mix of curiosity and skepticism. The alien ship defied conventional design, an enormous oblong structure shimmering with iridescent hues that seemed to shift depending on how the sunlight hit it. It hovered silently far above the atmosphere, emitting a signal that baffled the world's greatest minds. It wasn't just a sound, it was an intricate pattern of light, tone, and rhythm. Ethan's phone buzzed violently on his desk. He swiped to answer, barely registering the caller ID. "Ethan Carter?" a stern voice asked. "Yes, speaking. Who's this?" "Dr. Carter, this is Colonel Harrington from the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. We're in need of your expertise." Ethan blinked. "My expertise? I'm a linguist, not a physicist or a biologist." "Exactly why we need you. You've spent years studying nonverbal communication and decoding ancient languages. We believe the signal from the ship is a form of communication, and we need someone to crack it. Fast." Before Ethan could reply, a military transport was already being arranged to pick him up. Hours later, Ethan found himself standing in a sterile conference room in a secure government facility. The room buzzed with activity, filled with military personnel, scientists, and technicians. A large screen displayed the alien ship in real time, a breathtaking sight that seemed surreal. Colonel Harrington gestured for silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to establish basic contact. The alien ship has transmitted coordinates and requested a meeting. A team will board the ship tomorrow. Dr. Carter, you'll be leading the communication efforts." "Wait, what?" Ethan stammered. "I'm no diplomat." "You're the best we've got," the colonel said bluntly. "Besides, they requested someone who understands human expression." "Expression?" Ethan frowned. "They were that specific?" "Crystal clear. They don't seem hostile, but we're not taking any chances. You'll have a security team with you, but the aliens insisted the lead representative be an unarmed civilian. That's you." Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. This was nothing like the academic challenges he was used to, but the weight of the moment was undeniable. The next day, Ethan stood on the launch pad, staring at the shuttle that would take him to the alien ship. His nerves tightened, but there was no turning back now. As the shuttle docked with the alien vessel, a faint hum resonated through the walls, soothing yet unnerving. The doors slid open to reveal a being unlike anything Ethan had imagined. The alien stood tall, her figure slender but commanding, clad in a flowing garment that shimmered like liquid silver. Her skin had a faint bluish tint, and her eyes glowed softly, like molten gold. Despite her otherworldly appearance, her face bore an expression of calm intelligence. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice melodious and layered, as if two tones spoke in harmony. "We have waited to meet you." Ethan stepped forward, trying not to appear intimidated. "I'm Ethan Carter. On behalf of Earth, welcome." Lyra tilted her head as though analyzing every nuance of his words. "We have studied your world from afar, but understanding is incomplete without feeling." Her gaze lingered on him, and Ethan felt a strange mixture of warmth and vulnerability, as if she could see into him. "Feeling?" he echoed, trying to mask his unease. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Emotion, connection. Your species thrives on these. Ours has forgotten their value." As she spoke, more of her kind appeared, each bearing the same serene, otherworldly grace. They watched Ethan with curiosity, their presence filling the space like a quiet symphony. Ethan cleared his throat. "We're honored by your interest. What can we offer you?" Lyra stepped closer, her movements fluid and deliberate. "We wish to learn, Dr. Carter, to share knowledge, stories, and sensations. Will you help us?" Ethan hesitated, feeling the weight of her words. This was more than diplomacy. It was the beginning of something far greater, something he could barely comprehend. He nodded, his voice steady. "I'll do my best." For the first time, Lyra's expression softened into something resembling a genuine smile. "Then let us begin." The chapter sets up intrigue and establishes the dynamic between Ethan and the Valari. Lyra's introduction hints at her complexity and the Valari's unique perspective on humanity, setting the stage for deeper exploration in the chapters to come. The hum of the shuttle reverberated faintly in Ethan's chest as it pulled away from the alien ship. His mind reeled, trying to process the events of the day. Lyra's words, so measured yet enigmatic, played on a loop in his head. Emotion. Connection. Your species thrives on these. Ours has forgotten their value. Back on the ground, the debriefing room was a whirlwind of questions and skepticism. Scientists fired off inquiries, military personnel debated security risks, and politicians wrangled over the implications. Ethan, however, was uncharacteristically silent, staring at the starship's live feed displayed on the large monitor. Colonel Harrington broke through the din. "Dr. Carter, are you with us?" Ethan snapped back to attention. "Sorry, it's just... they seem so different from what we expected. No threats, no weapons, just curiosity." "Curiosity can be dangerous," Harrington said, folding his arms. "Their ship could obliterate half our planet if they wanted." "Then why haven't they?" Ethan countered. The room fell silent. One of the scientists spoke up. "What did she mean by connection? Did they explain what they're looking for?" "Not exactly," Ethan admitted. "They want to learn from us. Emotion, creativity, and expression. They called these things humanity's strength." "Sounds like they're looking for something more than a cultural exchange," Harrington said. "Be careful, Carter. We don't know what their endgame is." The next day, Ethan received the official summons. Lyra and her crew had invited him back aboard the ship. This time, he was to come alone. He stepped into the shuttle with a mixture of trepidation and resolve. As the vessel docked with the alien starship, he was greeted by Lyra herself. "Dr. Carter," she said, her golden eyes meeting his. "You returned. This pleases me." "Well," Ethan replied with a faint smile, "you're hard to say no to." Lyra tilted her head, her gaze curious. "This is humor, yes? I find it intriguing." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, humor. Part of that emotion thing we talked about." She gestured for him to follow, leading him deeper into the ship. The interior was breathtaking, organic and fluid, with walls that seemed to pulse faintly, like a living entity. Lights danced in mesmerizing patterns, illuminating pathways that shimmered like liquid crystal. "Your ship is incredible," Ethan said, his voice tinged with awe. "It is an extension of us," Lyra replied, "a living construct, responsive to our needs. It adapts, much like your species adapts to your environment." They entered a chamber that seemed to hum with energy. In its center was a floating sphere of light, pulsating softly. Lyra approached it, placing a hand on its surface. "This is the Archivus, a repository of our knowledge. It contains our history, our achievements, and our failures." Ethan stepped closer, mesmerized. "Failures?" "We once thrived on connection," Lyra explained, her voice softer now. "But over time, we grew distant, valuing efficiency over intimacy. Our emotions dulled, our creativity stagnated. It is why we search the stars, for civilizations like yours to remind us of what we've lost." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. "So, you think we can help you feel again?" Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You are unique among your kind, Ethan. Your willingness to understand sets you apart. That is why I requested you." The weight of her words left Ethan momentarily speechless. "I'll do whatever I can," he finally said. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Come, there is more to show you." She led him to a sprawling chamber filled with strange artifacts and shimmering projections. "This is our exchange hall," Lyra said. "Here we share knowledge with other civilizations we encounter. You may offer something of your world, and in return, I will share something of ours." Ethan scanned the room, his mind racing. "Something of my world? Like what?" "Anything that carries meaning," Lyra replied. "A story, a symbol, an idea. What would you choose to define humanity?" Ethan hesitated, feeling the enormity of the question. Finally, he pulled a small object from his pocket, a worn photograph of his late wife. This, he said, handing it to Lyra. She studied the image intently. Who is she? My wife, Ethan said, his voice heavy with emotion. She passed away 2 years ago. This is all I have left of her. Lyra's gaze softened, and for the first time, she seemed genuinely moved. A memory imbued with love and loss. This is the essence of your species, is it not? To feel so deeply? Ethan nodded, his throat tight. Yeah, I guess it is. Lyra placed the photograph gently into the archivus, where it was absorbed in a cascade of light. She then turned to Ethan, her voice low. Thank you, Ethan. You have given us something precious. As the session ended, Lyra escorted Ethan back to the shuttle. Before he boarded, she placed a hand on his arm. Your presence has already begun to change us. I hope you will return. Ethan met her gaze, sensing the sincerity in her words. I'll be back. There's still a lot to learn. As the shuttle descended toward Earth, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that his connection with Lyra and the Valari was only just beginning. Ethan stood at the shuttle's airlock, staring at the massive door of the Valari ship as it slid open with a gentle hum. This was his third visit, but the awe hadn't faded. Lyra was there waiting for him, her silken silver robes flowing with an ethereal grace. Ethan, she greeted him with a faint smile, her golden eyes shimmering. I'm glad you returned. He stepped forward, his nerves steadied by her calm demeanor. I promised I'd come back, didn't I? Lyra nodded, tilting her head slightly. Promises carry weight in your culture, yes? An emotional contract. Exactly, Ethan replied, walking alongside her as she led him down a glowing corridor. Though not everyone keeps them. Lyra glanced at him, her expression curious. And you? Do you always keep yours? I try to, Ethan said. I'm not perfect, but I like to think I'm dependable. Lyra's lips curved ever so slightly. Dependable, a quality we admire. They entered a new chamber, larger than any Ethan had seen before. The walls sparkled like the night sky, and in the center of the room stood a large table with intricate patterns etched into its surface. Around it hovered projections of Earth's landscapes, cities, and people, all displayed with astonishing clarity. What is this place? Ethan asked, his voice echoing slightly. The observation room, Lyra replied. Here we analyze your world, its beauty and its chaos. Your people's resilience fascinates us. Ethan stepped closer to a projection of a bustling city street. Resilience? That's one way to put it. We're also messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright reckless. Lyra approached the projection, her fingers brushing the light as if she could feel it. And yet you thrive. Your chaos fuels your creativity. Your unpredictability sparks innovation. These are traits we have forgotten. Ethan watched her, struck by the sincerity in her voice. You keep saying your people have forgotten. What happened? Lyra hesitated, her gaze fixed on the projection. Long ago, we chose order over emotion, efficiency over expression. We believed it would lead to perfection, but instead, it led to stagnation. We lost what made us alive. Ethan frowned. And now you think humanity can help you remember? Yes, she said, turning to face him. But it is not only humanity. It is you. The weight of her words hung in the air. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Me? Why me? Because you feel deeply, Lyra said, stepping closer. Even now I sense your hesitation, your curiosity, your fear. You are not ruled by logic alone. You are balanced. Ethan chuckled, trying to diffuse the tension. Balanced, huh? You should see me when I'm late for work. Lyra didn't laugh, but her eyes softened. Humor, another expression of your depth. She gestured toward the table, where a new projection appeared. A Valari city, gleaming and orderly, but eerily lifeless. This is our home. Beautiful, efficient, but devoid of spontaneity. We create nothing new. We feel nothing genuine. That is why we travel, why we seek. Ethan studied the image, his heart sinking. It looks perfect, but I get it. It's like a painting without any color. Lyra nodded. Precisely. And now we look to you to show us the colors we have lost. As the conversation deepened, Ethan found himself growing more comfortable around Lyra. He began sharing stories, his childhood fascination with stars, the time he built a telescope with his dad, the way he used to draw imaginary planets as a kid. Lyra listened intently, her eyes alight with curiosity. "You draw?" she asked. "I used to," Ethan admitted. "Haven't picked up a pencil in years." Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing the air. A small, glowing slate appeared in her hand. She handed it to Ethan. "Show me." He hesitated, then took the slate. As he moved his fingers across its surface, light trailed behind, forming lines and shapes. Slowly, a simple image took form, a crude sketch of Earth from space. Lyra's gaze was fixed on the drawing. "You see your world as a whole, not divided." "That's the idea," Ethan said, handing the slate back to her. "We're all in this together, whether we like it or not." Lyra studied the image for a long moment before looking at him. "You see more than most of your kind." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe I just like doodling planets." Lyra placed the slate on the table, where the drawing expanded into a glowing, three-dimensional representation of Earth. "Your simplicity carries meaning. This is what we need." For the first time, Ethan felt a flicker of pride. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was part of something bigger. As they left the observation room, Lyra spoke again. "You have shown us much today, Ethan, but there is still more to uncover." Ethan glanced at her, his curiosity rekindled. "Then let's keep going." Lyra's faint smile returned. "Yes, let us." Ethan's steps echoed faintly as Lyra led him through a dimly lit corridor deeper into the Valari ship. Each time he thought he had seen all the wonders it could hold, another part of the vessel revealed itself, more astonishing than the last. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, his curiosity piqued. "To the heart," Lyra replied simply. "The heart?" "It is the core of our ship," she explained. "It is where our connection to the vessel, and to each other, is strongest. Few of us visit it often anymore, but I believe it may help you understand." "Understand what?" Lyra paused, turning to face him. Her expression, though calm, carried an intensity he hadn't seen before. "Why we need you." They reached a set of large ornate doors that shimmered faintly, as though alive. Lyra raised her hand, and the doors parted with a soft hiss. Inside was a vast chamber, bathed in a gentle, pulsating light. In its center floated a massive crystalline structure, its surface alive with shifting colors and patterns. Ethan felt a strange warmth wash over him, as though the room itself was alive. "This is the heart," Lyra said, her voice quieter now. "It is the soul of our ship. It connects us, sustains us, and reflects us." Ethan stepped closer, awestruck. "It's beautiful." "Yes," Lyra said, her gaze fixed on the heart, "but it is dimmer than it once was. As we have grown distant from our emotions, so too has the heart grown weaker." Ethan frowned. "And you think I can help?" Lyra nodded. "You already have. Your presence, your stories, your feeling have stirred it." Ethan's skepticism surfaced. "Look, I'm just one guy. I don't see how anything I do could make a difference to this." Lyra stepped closer, her golden eyes locking onto his. "Do you doubt your impact, Ethan? The drawing you made, it resonated. The memory of your wife, it brought a depth we had forgotten. You carry the essence of what we seek." Ethan's mind raced, trying to process her words. "But what do you want me to do? Just keep sharing memories? Stories?" Lyra tilted her head, considering. "Perhaps, or perhaps it is not only the sharing, but the act of feeling itself. You embody connection, Ethan, even in your doubts." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "This is a lot to take in, Lyra." "I know," she said softly, "but you are not alone in this." Lyra stepped closer to the heart, placing her hands on its surface. A soft hum filled the room, and the crystalline structure began to shift, forming an image, a vibrant, glowing sphere. "This is your world," Lyra said. "Its energy, its chaos, its beauty. The heart reacts to it just as it reacts to you." Ethan stared at the image, a strange mixture of pride and unease swelling within him. So, what do we do now? Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. We explore. Explore what? Your emotions, your memories, your connections, Lyra said, stepping closer. Her gaze held a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. Will you trust me? Ethan hesitated, but something in her voice, in her eyes, compelled him to nod. Yeah, I'll try. Lyra extended her hand, palm up. Ethan took it, surprised by the warmth of her touch. Close your eyes, she instructed. He did, and almost immediately a flood of sensations washed over him. Images, sounds, and feelings that weren't his own. He saw glimpses of the Valari homeworld, heard faint echoes of their voices, and felt their longing, their loss. Ethan opened his eyes, his breath shaky. That was intense. Lyra's hand lingered in his. Now you see, the connection begins with trust. You have given us a piece of yourself, and we have shared ours. This is how we heal. Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself. All right, let's keep going. Lyra's faint smile returned. You are more resilient than you realize, Ethan. Together, we will discover much. As they left the chamber, Ethan couldn't help but feel that the heart had already begun to change, both the ship's and his own. Ethan returned to the observation room the next day, a mix of anticipation and nervous energy coursing through him. Lyra had requested his presence, and though he didn't know why, he felt a growing sense of trust in her. When he entered, he found Lyra standing before the table, her golden eyes focused on a glowing projection of his earlier drawing of Earth. She looked up as he approached, her expression softening. You came, she said simply. You asked, Ethan replied with a shrug. What's this about? Lyra gestured to the table. Your drawing inspired me. I wish to create something new, together. Ethan blinked, surprised. Create what, exactly? An image, she said. A fusion of your perspective and mine. Something neither of us could achieve alone. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, his nerves surfacing. I'm not exactly an artist, Lyra. My last real drawing was probably in high school. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm and encouraging. Skill is not the essence of creation. It is intention, emotion. Let us begin, and you will see. The table shimmered, and a blank slate of light appeared before them. Lyra extended her hand, and a delicate flowing pattern emerged, a representation of the Valari starship, intricate and mesmerizing. Ethan stared at it, unsure how to contribute. That's incredible. I don't think I can match that. You are not matching, Lyra said gently. You are complementing. Begin with something that feels meaningful to you. Taking a deep breath, Ethan reached out. As his fingers hovered over the slate, trails of light followed, forming simple angular shapes. He sketched a rugged mountain range, inspired by childhood hikes with his father. Lyra tilted her head, studying the image. Your mountains are strong, enduring. They balance the fluidity of the starship. That's one way to look at it, Ethan said with a small smile. Lyra added soft, shimmering lines to the sky above the mountains, creating an aurora-like effect. And now, a bridge between our worlds. Ethan couldn't help but be drawn into the process. He added a winding river, while Lyra enhanced it with glowing fish-like creatures, their movements fluid and dreamlike. As the image grew, so did the connection between them. They shared stories as they worked. Lyra spoke of her people's distant past, while Ethan recounted tales of his childhood and his late wife. You carry her memory with you, Lyra said softly, her gaze warm. Yeah, Ethan replied, his voice tinged with emotion. She's part of who I am. Lyra nodded. Emotion is a powerful force, Ethan. It shapes, it connects, it heals. You remind us of this. Hours seemed to pass in moments, and when they finally stepped back from their creation, Ethan was struck by its beauty. The image was a harmonious blend of Earth and Valari elements, a world both familiar and alien, yet seamless in its integration. It's amazing, he said, his voice filled with awe. It is ours, Lyra said, her golden eyes meeting his, a testament to what we can achieve together. Ethan felt a swell of pride and something deeper, a growing bond with Lyra that he couldn't quite define. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Lyra said, her voice almost a whisper. "We take the next step." Ethan's heart quickened, but he nodded, ready to see where this journey would lead. Together. Ethan stood in the ship's atrium, a cavernous space filled with towering crystalline structures that glowed faintly, pulsing in time with some unspoken rhythm. Lyra walked beside him, her movements graceful and deliberate, her expression thoughtful. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his voice echoing in the quiet expanse. "The atrium is the ship's nexus," Lyra explained. "Here, all systems converge. Energy, knowledge, and connection. It is where we feel the ship most strongly, where it feels us." Ethan looked around, marveling at the intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow along the walls. "It's like the ship is alive." "In many ways it is," Lyra said, turning to face him. "And now, it responds to you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "To me? How?" Lyra stepped closer, her golden eyes locking onto his. "The heart has sensed your presence, your emotions, your creativity. You are unlike anyone we have encountered, Ethan. You are changing us." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm just a guy from Earth, Lyra. I don't think I'm all that special." Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "And yet, you are here. The heart does not react to mere logic or intellect. It responds to feeling, to connection, and you, Ethan, are full of both." He took a step back, trying to process her words. "So, what does that mean? Am I supposed to fix your ship or your people?" "Not fix," Lyra said softly. "Illuminate, inspire, show us what we have forgotten." She led him to the center of the atrium, where a circular platform rose from the floor. Lyra gestured for him to step onto it. "What's this?" Ethan asked, eyeing the platform warily. "A shared experience," Lyra replied. "Step onto it with me, and you will see." Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped onto the platform. Lyra joined him, standing just inches away. The platform hummed, and the crystalline structures around them began to glow brighter. Suddenly, Ethan felt a rush of sensations, images, sounds, and emotions that weren't his own. He saw flashes of the Valari homeworld, felt their longing for connection, their sorrow over what they had lost. "It's overwhelming," he said, his voice shaky. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying him. "Focus, Ethan. Let the connection guide you." Ethan closed his eyes and the sensations began to settle. He felt a strange warmth, a bond forming between him and the ship, and by extension, Lyra. He opened his eyes and found her gazing at him, her expression soft yet intense. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "I think so," he said. "It's like I'm part of something bigger." Lyra nodded. "That is the essence of the heart. It connects, it unites, and it grows stronger through shared emotion." As they stepped off the platform, Ethan felt a strange sense of calm. He looked at Lyra, his curiosity piqued. "What about you? Do you feel it too?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, your presence has awakened something in me. A longing I had forgotten." Ethan tilted his head, studying her. "A longing for what?" "For connection," she said simply. "With you, with my people, with the universe." Ethan felt his chest tighten, a mix of emotions swirling within him. "So what happens now?" Lyra took a step closer, her gaze unwavering. "Now we continue. Together." For the first time, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he couldn't deny. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he and Lyra were part of it, bound by something neither of them fully understood, but both were willing to explore. Ethan sat at the edge of a glowing balcony overlooking the atrium, the faint hum of the ship resonating in his chest. Lyra stood beside him, her gaze distant but her presence steady. The shared experiences they'd undergone over the past days had bonded them in a way he couldn't fully articulate. "You've been quiet," Ethan said, breaking the silence. Lyra turned her head slightly, her golden eyes meeting his. "I am reflecting." You have shown me much, Ethan. More than I expected. He chuckled, leaning back on his elbows. Guess I'm full of surprises. Indeed, Lyra replied, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Ethan straightened, studying her. You've shared a lot with me too, but I still don't get it. Why now? Why Earth? Why me? Lyra's expression grew serious. Our people are at a crossroads. We have spent millennia in pursuit of perfection, yet it has left us hollow. When we observed your world, your people, we saw something we had lost: chaos, imperfection, but also passion, connection, and hope. And you think I represent all of that? Ethan asked, skeptical. You embody it, Lyra said firmly. You are not bound by logic alone. You feel deeply, act impulsively, create without reason. These are traits we cannot manufacture, only experience. That is why we need you. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. No pressure, huh? Lyra stepped closer, her voice softening. You misunderstand. This is not a burden for you to carry alone. It is a journey we undertake together. The room shifted suddenly, the glow of the atrium dimming. Lyra's head snapped toward the crystalline walls. What's happening? Ethan asked, his tone sharp. The heart is responding, Lyra said, her voice laced with urgency. It senses conflict, an imbalance within you. Conflict? What kind of conflict? Lyra moved to the center of the room, placing her hand on a glowing panel. Your emotions are strong, Ethan, but they are clouded. Fear, doubt. You must confront them, or the heart cannot fully connect with you. Ethan hesitated, his chest tightening. I don't know if I can do that. You can, Lyra said, stepping back toward him. I will guide you, but you must trust me. Ethan swallowed hard, then nodded. All right, let's do this. Lyra led him back to the platform in the center of the atrium. As they stepped onto it together, the crystalline walls began to glow more brightly, pulsing in time with Ethan's heartbeat. Close your eyes, Lyra instructed. Ethan obeyed, and immediately a flood of memories and emotions washed over him. Moments of joy, loss, love, and regret. He saw his wife's face, heard her laughter, and felt the ache of her absence. It's too much, Ethan said, his voice trembling. Breathe, Lyra said, her hand finding his. Let the pain flow through you, not consume you. Her touch steadied him, and slowly the storm within him began to calm. The memories didn't fade, but they felt less heavy, as if shared. You carry a great weight, Lyra said softly, but you are not alone. Ethan opened his eyes, meeting hers. And neither are you. The platform dimmed, and the room returned to its usual glow. Ethan felt lighter, as though a burden he hadn't realized he was carrying had been lifted. You did well, Lyra said, her tone warm. Thanks, Ethan replied, his voice steady. So, what now? Now, Lyra said, a flicker of hope in her eyes. We show the heart what true connection looks like. Ethan smiled. Together? Lyra nodded. Always. Ethan stood at the heart of the Valari ship, his pulse steady as he gazed into the shimmering crystalline core. It glowed more vibrantly than ever, its light casting shifting patterns across the walls. Beside him, Lyra watched the heart with a quiet intensity, her presence grounding him. So this is it? Ethan asked, breaking the silence. This is the moment, Lyra replied. The heart is ready, but it cannot complete its transformation without you. Ethan frowned, unsure. What does that even mean? What am I supposed to do? Lyra turned to him, her golden eyes filled with warmth. You already know. The connection we've built, the emotions you've shared. It's not about doing, but being. You only need to embrace it fully. Ethan hesitated, the weight of everything pressing on him. What if I mess it up? What if I'm not enough? You are enough, Lyra said firmly, stepping closer. Not because of perfection, but because of your humanity. That is what the heart needs, what we need. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on the heart's surface. A surge of energy rushed through him, but this time, it wasn't overwhelming. Instead, it was warm, like sunlight breaking through a storm. Images filled his mind, not just his own memories, but flashes of Lyra's world, her people, their struggles and their hopes. He saw the Valaris longing for connection, their yearning to rediscover what had been lost. Then came his own emotions, his wife's laughter, his childhood adventures, his grief and joy. He felt Lyra beside him, not just physically, but emotionally, her presence steady and reassuring. "You're not alone, Ethan," Lyra's voice echoed softly in his mind. "We are with you." The heart pulsed brighter, its light filling the room. Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of unity, as though he was part of something far greater than himself. When he opened his eyes, the heart had transformed. Its crystalline surface glowed with vibrant colors, its patterns fluid and alive. Lyra's expression was one of awe. "It worked," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan stepped back, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. "So what now? Did I just save your ship, or—" Lyra smiled, a rare and genuine expression. "You've done more than that. You've helped us remember who we are, what we can be. The heart reflects us, and now it shines with the connection we've rediscovered." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "Not bad for a guy who thought he was just here to fix some tech." "You have given us far more than technology," Lyra said, stepping closer. "You've shown us how to feel again." They returned to the observation room, where the image they had created together still glowed softly. Ethan traced the edges of the mountains he had drawn, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "What happens now?" he asked. "We continue," Lyra said, standing beside him. "Our journey is not over, Ethan. This was only the beginning." Ethan looked at her, a smile tugging at his lips. "Guess I'm in it for the long haul, huh?" Lyra's gaze softened. "If you choose to stay, you will always have a place here. But whatever you decide, know that you have changed us forever." Ethan nodded, a sense of peace settling over him. "Then let's see where this road takes us. Together." As they stood side by side, the Valari ship's heart glowed brighter than ever, a beacon of unity and hope, a testament to what humanity and the Valari could achieve, not through conflict, but through connection. It was a new beginning, not just for the Valari, but for Ethan as well.